Okay, so the last video got cut off because the bell rang and I didn't have time to finish before students started showing up in my room. So this is the highlights of Quadratic's video. This basically summarizes all the stuff we've done over the past 3 days. Today in class, you're going to be doing sort of just practice from all of it. And so there's no new notes today. It's just more practicing and getting familiar with everything we've done. So the biggest thing is everything's on Canvas, and so if you feel like your notes are missing something, you can try to fill in the blanks when I go over this, or you can get stuff from the notebook that's in the classroom or from another student. So on the first day, we went over the sort of characteristics of a quadratic. So as we've gone through, we've learned different things about the quadratic, and we've been applying all of this. So the first off is a quadratic function is in standard form can be written ax squared plus bx plus c, where a cannot equal 0. If a equals 0, then you have a linear function because this would go away and you would just have bx plus c. The graph is called a parabola. It looks like this. It's kind of a U shape. When you're looking to fill out the table, you could simply just graph this in your y equals part of your calculator. Just hit the y equals button and put x squared, and then hit second graph and look at the data table and fill this in. Or you can plug in the values for x and square each one of them. So you have the benefit of the calculator. You can get a lot of information from the calculator, so make sure you're using it. So you would graph it. We're going to go over what all this stuff is in a minute. Axis of symmetry, vertex, domain and range. So all the characteristics of the parabola are here, and we've sort of dove into them over the past couple of days when we learned about the different forms, how to write equations, how to figure out information from the equation or from the graph. So first off, A, that's the coefficient in front of your x squared. If it's positive or greater than 0, graph's going to open up, so it's going to look like that. If it's negative or less than 0, the graph's going to point down and look like that. The highest or lowest point of your parabola is your vertex. So in this case, it is that bottom point. So it's either where it turns here or where it turns there. So it's sort of the bottom of your U or the top of your mountain. Axis of symmetry is a line that goes through the vertex and creates a mirror image cut of the parabola. So each side of that axis of symmetry, you're going to have equidistant points, equal parts. Everything's going to look the same. So it basically creates a mirror in the middle of your parabola. As we talked about before, max and min. If it's negative, opens down, you're going to have a maximum. And if it's positive, if A is positive, it opens up, you're going to have a minimum. X-intercept is a point where the parabola crosses the x-axis. It always is in this format. It's a coordinate point, x, comma, 0. Roots, zeros, solutions are all words for x-intercepts. Make sure you know those. Point where parabola crosses the y-axis, that is the y-intercept. It's always a coordinate point. It starts with 0, comma, and a number. Domain for a quadratic function, it's always all real numbers, no restrictions. Other graphs may not have all reals, but any quadratic function will have a domain of all reals. And the range is dependent on the max or min. So it's going to be from the minimum up or the maximum down. Okay, so let's look at things you can get from your calculator. All this information can be gotten from your calculator. You can put in an equation into your calculator and get all these values. And so here on page 4 in your packet, it tells you what the different calculates do. So you hit second trace to get this calculate menu. And then each one of these tells you something different. So for example, the max and the min will give you the vertex. So obviously if it's a U shape, then that's going to give you a min. If it's shaped like a hill, that's going to give you a max. 0. Remember, x-intercepts we call zeros, roots, or solutions. So that will give you that information. and then value, which doesn't make a lot of sense, so that's why I'm putting this in the notes. Value actually gives you your y-intercept. But when doing any of this in the calculator, when you select this number, there's going to be a message up on your screen that says left bound. So you want to just scooch your cursor to the left of whatever point you're trying to find. So here I was looking for vertex. So I need to make a left bound around the vertex and a right bound around the vertex, and then hit enter twice. The first enter says guess, and the second enter actually gives you the point you're looking for. So if you're looking for an intercept, you're going to need to create a bound here and here around that intercept. It can be anywhere to the left and anywhere to the right. It does not have to be the same. Just anywhere a little bit to the left and a little bit to the right of the point you're looking for, and then it can calculate the exact point. So you can practice that in your calculator. Okay, you can also get a lot of information from a data table. Once you find the vertex, on either side of the vertex, you're going to have identical y values. So it's going to be like a mirror image on either side. So you can look at the direction it's going down, and then it changes direction at the vertex. But also at the vertex, you have mirror images on either side with those y values. So that's another clue that you found the vertex. Remember, x-intercepts, your y is going to be 0. Y-intercept, your x is going to be 0. And so I'm going to skip ahead to looking at the different forms. So these are the different forms we learned. We learned standard form. A and B and C are placeholders for different numbers. So your standard form is going to have numbers for A, B, and C. But those placeholders can help us find different things. So that C can help us find the y-intercept. Y-intercept x is 0. So if we put 0 in for here and here, all we're left with is C. Axis of symmetry, you can do negative b divided by 2a to get your axis of symmetry, which is also your x value for your vertex. Vertex form, that makes it easiest to find your vertex. You have inside this parentheses squared, you will find your h or x value of your vertex, and outside you will find your y value of your vertex. So when trying to recognize the different forms, standard form has no parentheses. Vertex form is going to have one parentheses with a squared, and then intercept form usually has two parentheses. In some cases, if one of your roots is 0, you might only have, this might look very similar to vertex form, but most of the time your intercept form is going to have two parentheses. If it ends up with one parentheses, you basically have ended up in vertex form, and your vertex is likely one of your x-intercepts, or is your only x-intercept. So here, P and Q are just letters, just like H and K. They're just placeholder letters. They don't mean anything. They're just there to hold a place for any number that could end up being our x-intercepts. And so this is how you would calculate x-intercepts. We have your P and your Q. They come from the equation. This format has a minus in it. So anytime you see that number, it's going to look, whatever you see in here, you're going to have an opposite out in the real world in your point. So this is kind of the upside down, comes out, and you get the opposite when you actually graph the point. If you take the middle between those 2 points gives you your axis of symmetry. So adding the two numbers together and dividing by 2 gives you axis of symmetry. My video is going to cut off any minute. I want to just briefly go over writing equations. So writing equations, if you're asked to write an equation in vertex form, they give you the vertex and it opens up, you're going to do something like this. You're going to plug in look at your vertex form, you're going to plug in your vertex and a value for A. A can be positive, but it can be any number. If it just says opens up, it could be an invisible 1, it could be a 4, it could be a 3, as long as it's positive. So we're not doing the contains the point, so you should have been crossing that out. If you see any more of those in the next section, you can cross them out and just make A equal to whatever the x value is in that point. So here, vertex form again, but now they're giving us specific A. So instead of just being a positive number, we're going to put that in there. Down here we have intercept form, so our placeholder P and Q become our intercepts. They say 0 is at 3 and -2.